Hello, 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 and welcome to this new episode of Hear Their Voices. This is an Icon podcast. For those of you joining us for the very first time, Icon is the international community on Nigeria. International Committee on Nigeria. And we promote human dignity, the right to live, religious freedom, and the protection of the vulnerable against all forms of persecution in Nigeria. Today, my name has not changed. I'm Priscilla Ozodo Acevedo, and it's such a joy to be here with you. I'm blessed. I'm just so blessed to have the privilege and the blessing to be here with you again. It kind of feels longer than a week, maybe because it was a very long week for me, but it's great to be back. And in this season of Icon, we are giving opportunities to you and to our guests to speak up on behalf of Nigeria, to speak up on behalf of the injustices going on in Nigeria. Last week we talked to Asinda, who is a woman in the diaspora, and she spoke about how she fights for and fights against injustices in Nigeria. We've been doing that for the past few weeks, speaking to Nigerians in the diaspora to talk about their experience and how they identify with the situations in Nigeria. Today, we have a pastor. He'll talk about his perspective and share some of the stories that he's been hearing from friends and family in Nigeria. I'm excited to introduce you to him. As you know, here at Icon, we're constantly saying, get the word out, get the word out, get the word out, okay? So we want you to speak up for Leah, speak up on behalf of Leah. We have Leah's birthday coming. Leah's birthday is in a couple weeks, and we're going to be celebrating her birthday right here with me. We're going to, celebrate with lots of music and singing. We have all that. Details about that is coming soon, so you want to be clear. But in the meantime, we are posting all these posts. Our social media department does a great job on Instagram and on Facebook, posting all these very short posts that you can share. My challenge every week, y'all, every single week, share. This is one of the posts. Share. Speak up for victims. Speak up on behalf of Nigeria. Okay, now I do this every week. Speaking of sharing, you don't want to watch this broadcast by yourself. Okay, you can see all of those posters going up there. You can share that on your social media, but right now, you don't want to watch my pretty face by yourself. Okay. So I'm going to give you a challenge to go into your phone. I receive a notification when we go live, and you may have received a notification too. Or maybe somebody shared it and you just randomly click this and you're watching this for the very first time. So I will go and click on that. I'm going to try and turn my volume down so that you're not hearing me twice. And then just click share. It's very easy. Take that and click share. Except I'm not clicking share. On Facebook, on YouTube. Some of you may be receiving this on YouTube, and my phone is fighting with me today, y'all. So I'm going to ignore my phone. All that to say, go share the link. Go share the link. When you receive it, you click on it. I like to copy it from YouTube and go to my WhatsApp because I have a community there, and just click share. Share, share, share. I don't know if I could say it more emphatically, but we want to get the word out there. There are people who need their stories to be heard. And today I just want to, we're going to give you some news headlines for the news of the week. And I'm just going to touch on them briefly because I want to tell you a story. I want to share a story. AJ, if we can get the news headlines there for our news of the week. We have some girls that were 3 students escaped from the Fulani militants after attack on Christian Mission School, and 1 still remains captive. This is Christian Mission School is speaking about a school in Ganarop, and that is close to my heart because I grew up there, and a lot of these missionaries are people that I know. And when we bring you these stories, we don't want you to feel like, oh, this is just some stories far away. These are people, we got the call when the militants attacked that base, that missionary base. We need things to change, okay? Our next news item, they said at least 8 killed in a Boko Haram terror attack in Nigeria. To receive more of our news, I'm giving you just the headlines today, and I will continue to give you the headlines because I need you to sign up to receive this directly to your email where you can be directed to the news channel. Just go to iconhelp.org, scroll down to the bottom, sign in your name and your email address, and every week we will send you information. Our next news headline is coming up in just a moment. It says Boko Haram recruits children in Gadam areas. They lure residents with cash and with other items. A lot of these families are families that do not have food, do not have places to live, and Boko Haram is recruiting with financial gain. The struggle continues. I always say, y'all, that this news items is not to depress us. It's to say the struggle is still going on. We, put on our makeup and come look fly and present these stories to you with a smile on our face. But we want you to be very, very clear that the struggle is real and things are still happening in Nigeria. For example, let's talk about a young lady. Her name is Faith. We will call her Faith, okay? Because we're protecting her identity. Faith discovered a new religious affiliation. She was of one religious affiliation, and by some very miraculous events decided that she wanted to follow a different religious affiliation. Faith was persecuted for her choice. Her father put her in a torture room where she was tortured for days and asked to renounce her newfound faith. Speaking of religious freedom, this is a foreign concept to Faith. Faith was eventually rescued with her stepmother, who eventually switched her religions to her religious affiliation as well. She was rescued and taken to a different city, a completely different city. And Faith was safe for a few weeks. But Faith missed her family. Faith missed her home. And when she heard that her father had left that particular community, she believed it was safe to go back. And so a couple days ago, about 4 days ago, Faith went back home to her people, to her land, to the place where she is most comfortable. But as soon as she stepped back home, she didn't know that she was being watched. Faith got arrested. No, she wasn't kidnapped by terrorists. Faith was arrested by the police. Hold on. I don't understand how a free woman who should be preparing to go to college, she's 18 plus, she's an adult, has the right to choose her religious affiliation, to choose where to live, to choose where to be, was arrested by the police in a case of missing child. They said they were pursuing a missing child report. In an attempt to get her back to torture and persecution and maybe even get her to be killed, the police had said they will transfer her to a different city so she could meet with her father. And that's when the prayer started and the pleas started. And we've been sending out pleas. She was in jail and suddenly lawyers arose on her behalf. And they pleaded and made sure that she was not transported to be returned to her father. Instead, she's been sent to Jos to be returned to people who care about her. And her father has been asked to come to her to have conversation with her. Faith is still in police custody as we speak. Right now, I just spoke with her representatives before I came on camera, and she is still in police custody as we speak. Our prayer is that Faith will be released today. Faith will be able to be the young lady that she is and live the life that she wants. This is why we still have this platform, is to share stories like this. Now, if you want to hear specific stories of people who are going through, we can do that too. We can send that to you every month. We have a segment called Their Stories. And you can hear their stories by signing up on iconhelp.org. We send out specific stories about people who are in the midst of the situation in Nigeria. So make sure, if I haven't convinced you in the past weeks, Now, make sure you go to our website, iconhelp.org, and sign up to receive live information. Particularly, I want to pause and just speak to our Nigerians that are living here in the US or other parts of the world. It's very easy to be disconnected and disillusioned with the pain and the suffering that's going on in our country. But when you are connected to one person, when you hear the story of one person, it keeps you connected. So sign up for hear their stories. If you have any questions about that, email us at iconhelp, and it's info@iconhelp.org, or connect with us on social media. We need to hear from you. Okay. Now, I would love to introduce you to my guest for today. My guest is a husband, he's a father, and he's currently a student at Luther Seminary in St. Paul, Minnesota, USA. He's getting his Master of Arts in Children and Youth Ministry and Children, Youth and Family, an MA in Children, Youth and Family. He's an intern with First Lutheran Church, and he before coming to the U.S., he was a pastor with ECWA in Kaduna Central District since 2011 to 2019. He has pastored a total of 4 churches, both in rural and in urban areas, and including campus outreaches. He's a board member of God Night, Child and Aged Aid Foundation that is based in Kaduna, Nigeria. He finds rural ministry an opportunity to be a voice to the voiceless, and a means to enjoy peaceful connection and to nurture while serving people. He's a passionate youth pastor with a vision to expand the drug use recovery ministry that he established in Nigeria. Above all, he's a lover of humanity with great love for all, respective of race, ethnicity, gender, and religion. I just got to meet my guest, and I'm so excited that you get to meet him. Join me to welcome our guest for today, Pastor Stanley.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. It's so good to have you here, Pastor Stanley.
Oh, thank you. It's so beautiful to be here. Thank you.
So first of all, I want you to help me. I should have asked you this before we went on stage. How do I pronounce your last name right? Because I don't want to mess it up.
You can just pronounce it as it is spelled, Ayashim.
Ayashim. See, I was going to say Ayashim. So Ayashim.
Yes, Ayashim.
Yes, it's such a privilege, such a joy to have you here. I love that you have served in the midst of the persecution, in the midst of the suffering in Nigeria. So in your opinion, can you just help us enter into the situation in Kaduna, particularly I think southern Kaduna, and some of the persecution that's happening there? Can you just describe what does it look like to have been there and in the midst? What's the feeling like there?
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity to be here. Thank you, Icon, for being a voice to the voiceless. I mean, this is just what we need, because there are people that are truly not heard. People who are going through a lot that are not heard. They're being killed daily and are facing persecution because of their faith. And this is really, really something that people should hear and know. Otherwise, silently and gradually, people would lose their place of heritage, even as it has been happening in the last few decades already. And I'll just want to say that most of what I will say here is not new to some of our listeners. However, to the global world that might have an opportunity to listen to this might sound new, but truly these things I would say are mostly not new, but just from another voice that needs to be heard. And so I would say the situation in Kaduna State as a whole is terrible. Sometimes I truly try as much as I can to be human, to be a humanist in my approach to all of these issues, so that I don't sound biased because I'm a pastor or because I'm a Christian. I sincerely don't like standing on one side of the spectrum. I always want to be seen as standing on the path of justice and standing on the path of truth. That can be relative in so many sense, but that is something I believe in. I believe in we looking at humanity being destroyed, we looking at people that are supposed to be inhabitants of places being killed and their rights taken away from them. And so this is quite a situation that we're facing today in Nigeria, and particularly Kaduna State and Southern Kaduna. And you would know very well that a lot of communities in Southern Kaduna have been sacked.
Yeah.
A lot of communities no longer exist in Southern Kaduna. Wherefore, sadly, the Fulani herdsmen, and for me, it has gotten to a stage where I no longer feel comfortable calling them just herdsmen. This is terrorism. It's terrorists. These people are terrorists that are going in the midnight, killing people. And this just, I would say it started like something that we never thought it would turn out to be today.
Yeah, yeah.
This thing started, we know from historically in Kaduna State, in Southern Kaduna, there had been religious conflicts. There has been religious crisis where certain things trigger the emotions of people, and at the end of the day, you find out that killings begin to happen. But these killings, as we know, usually takes at most 2 days. And then the government puts a curfew, and then, I mean, everywhere becomes calm. But in the last 2 decades or more, we have experienced incessant killings and genocide in Southern Kaduna, where people will be sleeping, and then this terrorist will go to these communities, shoot guns sporadically, and when people are running for their lives in the midnight, some of them are slaughtered. And the ones who live to tell the story live in trauma. And as I speak with you right now, there are a number of internally displaced people that we cannot count. And so this is heart-wrenching. It is difficult. Churches can no longer handle this because most of these church communities are Christian communities.
Yeah,
and this is what brings about the religious connotation to all of this, which in a lot of sense, not too many people want to listen to that. But it's no coincidence that it is mostly Christian communities that are attacked.
Yeah.
We would know that this is quite calculated, it is organized, and so it is hurtful.
I think something you said that just really I want to draw our audience into is the fact that they're internally displaced. What that means is their homes that they've owned for decades, perhaps over generations, their farmlands that has been their source of livelihood, their schools where their children can get educated. All of these have been ransacked and destroyed by terrorists, which means they have no homes, no education for their children, and no means of livelihood. That's what we're talking about. Pastor Stanley, thank you so much for that. Can you describe one time, because it's almost impossible these days to find a northern Nigerian who hasn't experienced like a crisis or like killings, or one time where you were physically attacked or your community was attacked. Can you think of one time where you were attacked, or somebody you know, or a place where you were around was attacked? Can you describe the feeling of being in the midst of that?
Yeah, thank you for this question. In 2016, where I pastored in a rural community, I found it really hard. The place is called Ngonkure in Chukun local government in Kaduna State. So I found it really hard because I knew to some extent some of the challenges of that place that had to do with insecurity, lack of social amenities like pipe-borne water, like there are a lot of things, no hospitals and all of this. So I mean, being in that community, I had to think about whether I should go with my family or not. So at a point, I decided to take my son, who was about 2 years old, off school, and then ask my wife to go with me to this community. So being in this community, like I said, I went there 2014, but in 2016, something happened that is related to the question you asked. So the Baggy people who are predominantly the people that I pastor kind of have this relationship with the Fulanis. And so in this relationship they have, in a lot of times they give the Fulanis their cattle to help them take care of this cattle because they are shepherds. But the Baggy person is not a shepherd by nature. He's mostly a farmer, a crop farmer. So in this situation, we found out that there had been reports of cattle rustling that belonged to this Baggy people. But there was some sense of connivance with the Fulanis that were shepherding this cattle. And so this night, it was really a terrible night for me because we had news that these Fulanis have come to rustle the cattle of the people of my community, the community I pastor, the Baggy people. And being a pastor, I had to go out. I shouldn't be seen sitting behind. We went out going on what we thought was protective mission of our community. But I must tell you, it was, and you could hear gunshots, and you could hear the fact that people are running helter-skelter. But the male, as you already know, in a lot of sense, in Nigeria or in Africa, we always stand to fight and protect. So standing to do that, I mean, I remember at a point my wife trying to run away from the home. She thought of where to hide. The only place she thought of hiding was in a well, a dried well that was close to the place. But thankfully, somebody saw her and stopped her and said, well, listen, it is me. Don't run away, because she saw this person coming in the dark and she thought it was a Fulani person. And she was trying to run away for her life. And then she actually said she was heading towards that well. It was funny when I looked at it. I was like, hey, running into a well, you won't survive. I mean, but these are situations. This is
We're losing some of the connection with you, Pastor Stanley. Can you hear me? I think the last we heard was these are situations.
Okay, these are situations that we face daily. And I mean, the people in Southern Kaduna face daily, of trauma, of fear for their lives, of not knowing whether they can see the following day. It's terrifying. And so, I mean, this is just one of those moments.
Yeah. And I know it's probably one of many, and I can't even begin to fathom the fear of, what if your wife jumped into that well? The story will be a completely different tale today. And we thank the Lord for saving her life and sparing her life that day. But we know that that is just your story. And as a pastor, you still have a lot of your congregants and a lot of people from those communities reaching out to you, even though you're here in the US. First of all, I was shocked that I didn't know that the Fulani militants were killing in 2016. Maybe I need to work on my education. I thought this was a recent thing. I thought it was just Boko Haram like 4 years ago. And this has been happening for years. The fact that that happened 5 years ago and it's still happening today in communities just breaks my heart. What stories have you heard from people in those communities? You can pick one or two stories to just give us a brief snapshot into what they're going through still today. Those people from your church, people from those baggy communities, or from other communities in Kaduna that might be going through situations like this.
Once again, thank you. Actually, just to say that most of these things happening have not only been localized to my community, but these are things that have spread across the entirety of Nigeria as we have it today. But just to say about my community that I pastored in Gonkure, in 2019, I was here in August, and all of a sudden I was called. A distress call came concerning the fact that two people who were sitting down under a tree watching their community at night were shot by this Fulani terrorist. They killed these two guys. And I mean, when I saw the gory pictures, I cried in my room. And I remember my roommate asking me, what do you want to do? I said, well, I don't know what to do, but I wish I was at home to actually speak on behalf of these people. Because sadly, I will tell you that some of these places that these terrorists attack do not have internet connection, do not have connection to government authorities.
Yeah.
And
Or
so
even electricity.
so they cannot really voice these things out.
Yeah.
And then in recent times, this community I am talking about is no longer existing. This is close to farming season, but 3 weeks back, this community was attacked again, and they saw this terrorist coming in their hundreds on motorcycles. And a lot of people had to flee for their lives. And one person was killed. They said, well, we're going to remain in this community. We'll see how we'll be able to stay here. But a week later, these people came back. This time around, they did not kill anybody. But as soon as all the people left the community, they went from house to house, room to room, searching for valuables. And they carted away with their valuables. And this time around, the members of the community were like, we can no longer live here. And all of them are just dispersed. They had to look for places they can be able to stay that is relatively safe. And that is their situation as it stands right now. So these communities are not safe. There's farming season that is coming up now. They cannot farm. They cannot go to their farms to do anything. And so we are terribly concerned about food scarcity that will be experienced in a lot of these places in no distant time. And so, I mean, imagine the trauma. A little girl, when I spoke with them when they were in the bush hiding, I spoke with this little girl. I said, Bishara, what is happening? She said to me, we are scared. We didn't sleep in our homes last night. We are confused. We don't know what is happening. We don't know how we can be able to handle. I mean, this is a little girl of 12 years old. Oh. So, I mean, the trauma is there. There is so much pain going on. I wish the killing can just stop. I wish something can be done, but truly nothing is happening. People are hopeless. I mean, it's painful that the government has come out to say they are helpless. It's painful. It's sad. If the government will tell you that they are helpless, then you should know that the common person is dead. So people are just existing. Nobody is living their lives anymore in those places. So it's hard.
I want to switch gears a little bit with the little time we have. How does it feel, Pastor Stanley, living in the US and watching people just do life very disconnected from these heartbreaks, particularly people in the diaspora, Nigerians that are like, it's not my problem, or I can't I've even heard this week of somebody who said, I'm just so discouraged about what's going on in Nigeria. I'm just going to pray. I'm not going to do anything about it. What do you have to say to such people? How are you, first of all, how are you able to stay involved with that at the same time being in the land of plenty as we all are? And how will you encourage some of these other Nigerians to say, no, we can't just stop, we can't just do nothing?
Well, Priscilla, I must tell you the truth. Anybody that has been connected to the situations back at home in Nigeria that is here, I must tell you, would feel the same thing as what you have just said. There are moments I feel that way. I feel like, well, I'm done. I'm done, because you are in this environment that things are working. I mean, a lot of things are going on in a better sense, but just to think about home where people cannot live freely in their own homes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's confusing. There are times I just sit back and say, all I can do is to pray. Yes, I pray. All I can do is to just take care of myself, self-care. I do that. However, there are times I know I have to speak on behalf of the people. What we lack mainly is the right voice, the right kind of people to say the right things to the authorities that are concerned. And so if all of us will come together from the diaspora community to say, well, this is what we have agreed upon, being people from the diaspora. We contribute a large chunk of the GDP that is going on in Nigeria today, that Nigeria claims to have. We contribute a lot to what is going on. And so therefore, I would say that we have a voice, even though one of the persons from the House of Assembly said, well, we don't have a voice. I mean, that's sad again. But I mean, we do have a voice. I mean, they cannot just sit back there and dictate for us. The voice we have is to make the world know that this is what is happening.
Yeah.
And I think that is what your organization is doing, which is a very wonderful thing. And we will keep speaking on behalf of the voiceless, because that's what is expected of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hate that we have such a short time to have these conversations, because there's so much that need to be said. And I believe that we'll have more conversations. But you said something is some people feel like they can't do anything, but just sharing this video. You can watch this on Facebook. You can watch it on YouTube. You can also share it as a podcast. This is a podcast on all your podcast platforms, right? I want to encourage you all to share this. Stanley is one voice, but you can take Pastor Stanley's voice and share it to your community. And by doing that, you're taking the voices of the people he just spoke about and sharing it to your community. I don't know how to emphasize this. Stream, download, share this podcast, but also go on iconhelp.org/engage and find out how you can do more. Because you can write your representative, you can give to some of these communities. We have people on ground. Icon has volunteers on ground. The lady I just spoke to today, they're going to have to find a place for her to live. You can give. You can connect with Pastor Stanley. Pastor Stanley, is there a way that people can connect with you past today? So if they want to hear about the communities that you're connected with?
Yeah, you can reach me on either Facebook or my phone number. I mean, I wouldn't want to share my phone number here, but I mean, you can reach me on Facebook and use the name you see on the screen, Stanley Ayashim, and I would get in touch with you.
Yes, I see Twitter, I see Instagram, I see Facebook. You can get in touch with Pastor Stanley. Yeah. It's such a blessing to have spoken with you. Just as a final thought, we are way over time, but I don't want us to leave without you giving this final thought. Is there hope?
Well, I have always considered the situation in Nigeria today as of a typical male in Nigeria who who usually feels sick but would not go to treat himself in the hospital until the situation gets really, really bad. And once they go to the hospital, the end result is that the person dies. That's the situation I see about Nigeria today, that we're in a very bad situation where death seems almost inevitable. However, we can actually look at it as, how can we have a better Nigeria? How can we have a renewed sense of living in Nigeria? So the hope I have for Nigeria is that as Nigerians, we can be able to speak on behalf of the voiceless, particularly pastors. Pastors, I call on clergies to really speak on behalf of the voiceless. Don't fold your arms and say, well, it's not happening to me. A lot of people that say it's not happening to them today, it crept and went down to them. Let's speak up and have a voice on behalf of the voiceless, and then try as much as possible to see that we do the right thing at the right time in Nigeria. And I believe things would come out for the best. We don't want to give up on Nigeria. Nigeria will be great again. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor Stanley. It's been a blessing having you here. I hope that I get to talk to you again and we get to do a second part of this conversation. I say it all the time. I'm saying it so my producers will hear and schedule us to come back together. So have a blessed week.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Such a joy. And for our audience, thank you for being here. And every time we do this, y'all, it's a little hard for me because it breaks my heart. And I'm going to be vulnerable with you all. I know we're over time, but we can get this word out more than we are doing now. I want to challenge everybody who is watching. Share this with your pastor. Share this with your church. How many more people can be screaming on the top of our lungs? Use the hashtag #FreeLeah. Speak up for Leah, speak up for Nigeria. And like we said, Leah is not the only person. Southern Kaduna is not the only community. But we're using these as examples of the hundreds of thousands of people that are displaced, that are away from their families. I want to beg you today to not do nothing. Don't just hear these stories and do nothing. You're way past doing nothing. It's time to get up and act and speak up. Hashtag speak up for Leah. Hashtag speak up. Hashtag free Leah. Hashtag speak up for Nigeria. It's been a pleasure being your host today. I'll be back same time, same place. God bless you. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week.